affect, the entire way how science works. So, with that, I welcome Abhijit. Thank you for joining us on this event.
Yeah, thank you, Samatha. And, I would also like to thank the whole India Bioscience team, for creating this platform and which is much needed for all the young investigators to know each other and learn from each other's experience. So thank you, the India Bioscience team, and, thank you, Samatha.
Yeah. So, let's just, I think, jump into the questions because, uh, I mean, um so the first question we have here is, when the YI transition to an independent investigator happens, and being a mentor at the same time, can it be very overwhelming? And how was it like for you?
Yes, it is. It is definitely overwhelming. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I think probably everyone, whosoever has gone through this experience will kind of, agree with me that, see, I mean, one thing is that we all need to kind of realize and understand is throughout our training process, right? We have learned how to kind of gain knowledge. Then we have also learned how to do research. We have learned how to give presentation, write paper, etc., etc. But rarely we got any real training in terms of how to manage a lab, how to manage a whole team. So that is definitely, overwhelming. Obviously, we all learn in the process, but at the same time, also some of my friends who were already in this kind of, they have already started their independent researcher journey, as well as some of the senior faculty colleagues, they helped and we kind of navigated through that process like everyone else. Yeah. Samatha, over to you.
Yes, Samatha. I'm not sure if Samatha's connection is creating an issue. Arushi, Abhijit. Samatha, can you hear us? Some connection with issue, na, with her. So, Abhijit, Samatha, can you hear us? Some issue, Abhijit. Okay, Arushi, I'll just filter it. Abhijit, that was very honest that you said, that it can be overwhelming. And this is a conversation India Bioscience also has amongst our team, that building a mentorship training workshop for YIs, because
Yes.
even as a postdoc, you do train undergrads and PhD researchers. But then when the onus of running your whole lab, raising money, managing upwards, managing your institution, administration, finance,
Yeah.
it is a lot of work. So Ankita has a great question that helps us, spend a little more time on this whole theme of it being overwhelming and acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Can you share your personal experiences with mentorship, both as a mentee and a mentor? How different was your mentoring style when you became a mentor versus what you experienced, or was it the same? Can you share some anecdotes?
Yeah. So, see, I mean, during my PhD and the postdoc, I mean, I was really lucky to work with some excellent people. However, so I did during my PhD, my main guide was Professor Animangshu Ghatak, IIT Kanpur. And then during my postdoc, I worked with Professor Josna Dhawan. And these two people had a very different way of working. Okay. Josna was much more hands off, and probably also I was a postdoc there, that also makes a difference. But Josna was overall a very relaxed and chill kind of person who is all, that she is always there, but it is not that she is kind of present there and kind of monitoring. On the other hand, my PhD guide, he was absolutely workaholic. Work was his life. Okay.
Okay.
And
I'm
he
trying
will,
not to nod too much.
no, so that, I mean, so see, something that, as I was telling, that I, these two very opposite kind of experience actually helped me to kind of understand the value of both the sides. That the value of uh, the way Professor Ghatak was, like, very rigorous and always standing kind of next to you and, looking at what you are doing, versus Josna, who is like not there until and unless you actually go to her and seek for help, right? So I could see the value of both the sides. Also, as a mentee there, I have also learned how to deal with these two very different types of mentorship style, right? So I guess that helped me when I became a PI.
So
As
what
I
is
see,
your style? Was it somewhere in between?
I think it is somewhere in between, but Karishma, before all of the discussion for next 1 year or 1 hour or so, let me first give you one, the what the word is called, the note of
Disclaimer.
caution, disclaimer. Yes, the
Okay.
disclaimer is that I think 2018 or 19, around that time, Nature did a survey, worldwide survey, and it was pretty much clear the way a PI perceive the lab is working versus the student perceiving the lab is working was very different, way too different, right? Say
Certainly.
98% of the PIs thought they know about each of the project going in the lab, whereas when it was surveyed in the students, 60% of the student only thought that. So there was a wide gap. So when you are talking about my style or mentoring style, I must give this disclaimer that whatever I am talking is talking where I
Yes,
am
certainly.
sitting, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
really don't know how the students are seeing it, or my
Certainly.
lab.
And Abhijit, that's perfectly, it's wonderful you mentioned that. But the audience is also YIs.
Yes.
So this would be a different conversation if it was a largely student group, then we should have your students also on board. But
Huh.
this is largely YIs.
No, so
So
why I gave this disclaimer, because when you asked me that how my mentorship is, and I am giving this answer that I feel it is somewhere midway, but that is
yes,
my feel, right?
yes,
That is what
certainly.
I feel. And as also another thing that for any organization, any team, anywhere, right? Best thing is that you are happy, your team is also happy. You are happy, your team is unhappy, that is one problem. But the biggest problem is that your team is unhappy and you don't know that they are unhappy and you are
Right,
assuming that they are happy.
right,
Right. So I think
absolutely.
that is the biggest problem. And I just want to give that disclaimer at the onset.
Certainly. So, Samatha, maybe you can take it forward. Nice to have you back. But there are
Yeah.
many pieces we can, sort of get into details. Yes.
Yeah.
Samatha,
So
I
I
just held forth till you came. Okay.
yeah. Shall I go to the second question then?
Certainly, certainly.
Yeah. So the second question is, you know, being a mentor means that you sort of have a heart-to-heart conversation sometimes with your students. And can you give examples of how you chose to approach these, conversations or challenging situations when you had to have those kind of conversations with your mentees? And what are your learnings in hindsight?
Okay, so you know, the first of all, I would like to start with the next question, that is the learning part.
Mm-hmm.
Now I am kind of 10 years as the PI, almost completed 10 years. It is not that whatever I have done in the last 10 years, I am proud of everything, right? I also have the moments which now I think, and when I look back, I think, okay, I should have handled it in a little different way, and so on and so forth. So I think the few of the difficult conversations are, number one, when the when you can see that PhD student or a mentee is not going in the right direction, is not being able to do. Now you need to, as a mentor, you need to think of that where it is lacking. Okay, it can be a lack in the training which you may provide, and that you can bridge the gap. But then they are also, and that part I think the very very difficult to handle, and where uh, the student cannot see that where he she they are kind of needs the improvement, and particularly if they are absolutely sure that okay, I don't need any improvement, and then kind of getting them to that, no, here are here you need some kind of improvement there. So I think that is one of the discussion that, I mean, one of the conversation that is kind of difficult, that you are asking someone to do or things in a certain way. That person is not doing that. Now you need to kind of understand that that person is not doing that because they are not being able to do it, where they may need your help or some kind of training, or they are not willing to do it. Then you know then you need to know that why they are not willing to do it, and that, so that is, I think, one of the major challenge. And then I can tell you that uh, this happened that uh, you the student was not being able to write. And then first I thought that, okay, why the student is not being able to write. Then after a certain amount of discussion and, you know, the kind of looking into the writing part, etc., then I first thought, okay, that the student may need help in, I mean, it is a help in writing English. So I tried to help in that way. But then I realized it is actually, the problem is that the student was not being able to formulate the thought. So essentially I asked the student, okay, you just write it in Hindi. तुम मुझे हिंदी में लिख के लाओ. And then we realized that no, he is not being able to put his thoughts in a chain. So then I kind of realized, oh, okay, if I could have recognized this much earlier, I could have trained him in a little different way. So I think this is one of the way. I mean, when we talk about the difficult conversation, to make the student, first of all, for the as a PI to understand where the student is lacking, that is a major challenge, and then to convey that so that their self-respect does not get hurt, and the conversation remains respectful. That is one kind of difficult conversation. Another, I mean, I would like to talk about three such major categories. Another kind of difficult conversation is that when the student might be going through some kind of psychological issues and then mental health issues, and then I'm not a trained there, right? So then it becomes kind of a bit difficult that how much I should go and where I should stop, and um, say for example, the student is refusing to take any professional help, but you can clearly see that there is some mental health issue. Now you really don't know that how much you should push and where do you kind of because again, I mean, as I was saying at the very beginning, we are not trained. So that is another problem. And the third category, I would say that when, I mean, I'm smiling, but it is sometimes it is not an issue of kind of a light issue. When the student go through some kind of personal emotional turmoil, and again, you clearly can see that their performance is getting affected, their general health is getting affected, but you also don't really want to get into their personal space, but at the same time, you still want to help them. So I think these are the three different categories of difficult conversation that I can think of.
So I just want to interject here about when you started off, where you this, you know, uh, how long did it take you to, get to this point where you understand all of this? Because here we're talking about a young investigator who's under so much pressure already, to perform and prove themselves because they just joined. And then at the same time, they are worrying. Usually at that time, they don't have a big lab; they have a small lab. But then, so they are going through their own thing. So
Exactly.
how do you think the system should be also helping young investigators in a way to deal with all of this?
So, Samatha, something that we always talk about, that as we are talking about the system should have some kind of mentorship kind of program. See, right now, if I tell you that, all of these kind of various difficult situations, right? Also, everyone knows this authorship conflict, those kind of situation comes. Right now, what we do, we talk to our senior colleagues or someone whom I trust. I call that person and I tell, see, this is the situation, how should I deal with it? But I think right now everything is very informal. There can be some kind of formal setup, but then the con of having the formal setup is that, we, at least the people who are, we all are in academia, we are also very individualistic people, right? We want to do things in our own way. So we also don't want too much of mentoring and too much of handholding. So I think that's a kind of a fine balance to make. But as we are talking about all the young investigators here, if I give you that a piece of suggestion, advice, whatever way you call it. Number one is that learning to do the mentorship is an ongoing process. Okay, every other student is different. Every new student is different, and every time you need to kind of learn the process that okay, how to deal with this and thing. So it's an ongoing process. Number two is that I think the key here, and I mean, I know it's a cliche, but the key here is that the communication. That more and more we can sit with the students and kind of talk to them, not necessarily always in the lab, maybe outside of a tea, coffee, and they will feel more and more comfortable, and then they will kind of come to you with their problems, and they will start discussing with you. And third thing that I would like to mention here again, as we are talking about young investigators, that be kind to yourself as well. Okay, while you are trying to be good and kind to others, you also have to be kind to yourself. So if you yourself get stressed, then obviously we all are human beings, right? That will get reflected to the people in the team. So it is very important that we keep our own stress level kind of low. And in that way, I would like to add just last one thing is that, um, you know, it is being a PI or team leader, it is not that you always can talk nice to all your team members, right? Some of the time you need to become as a little, little harsh, if I say, or a little stern. But one thing that you need to kind of keep or tell, you need to learn, I will say, in the process is that you cannot be angry. Okay, you can show anger if you think that you need to do that. But from the inside, you cannot get angry, because that clouds our judgment, that clouds our thought process. We use wrong words, etc. So that is, I think, a process that needs to be learned, is that how to be stern without being angry from inside.
Right. So that's really nicely put. But a lot of people come from labs where they're used to being treated that way, and then so they sort of learn it is how it is done. So again, goes back to having a mentoring, standard to say that this is only how we can treat it. Uh, Probably that is again something the system should be doing. So we'll
So
go to
something
the
like, sorry to cut you. I mean, as I said that my answer to this particular question is yes and no. Because why I'm saying yes, yes, I mean, absolutely, the system should be doing something. But why I'm saying no also, because I'm a little bit apprehensive there, that I have also seen situations, because who I mean, when we say the system is also made up of the people, right?
correct.
And if we depend to, and those, say, the mentor for the young PIs, who will be the mentors? Obviously the senior ones, right? Now if I give a too much of importance to that mentorship, meaning is that the structure that I have created, that will be followed, and I will try to impose it on someone's.
Correct.
So the new people will not be able to bring the fresh and new ideas of mentorship as well. So that's why I said that's a little bit of fine balance that
Okay.
needs to be.
Great, great. So, which now brings us to, let's talk about work-life balance next and work-life boundaries as such. So, when we talk about having these conversations with the student and the mentor, sometimes we, I mean, a student should have the freedom to say that they don't want to share all the personal things. And then that also then goes along with the work-life boundary. For example, if it's a person is a mother and they need more time, okay, they should be able to tell that yes, I will spend lesser time, but I will do my work within this. But then that should not be like a reason for the PI to continuously bug that person. So, what do you think about those aspects?
So Samatha, I think, to be very honest, that whether you are PI or not or whatever, right? It is, I think, something which comes as a general courtesy. Okay, that how much, I mean, uh, it is a kind of general courtesy that if I know someone needs some space or some time to provide that, but at the same time that to know that okay, their performance overall, that is not. So I think one of the thing is to, as I was saying at the very beginning, to create that environment of comfort. Okay, by talking, by communicating with your team members, that if you can create that ambience of comfort, I think that is the key. And if I again talk about the personal anecdote, I think, I mean, as I said, I don't know again what my students feel, but I think that I could create that level in the lab, because when I see that the students, they say, I won't be able to work today because I'm having my period cramp. So that kind of tells me, okay, they are actually kind of comfortable. They can discuss these
Oh,
things, right?
correct.
At the very big, say the students say until that I will not be able to do this because I'm having fight with my mother-in-law and I am in a very kind of, in a. So when they kind of share those things, that also tells me that, okay, they have confidence in me that, okay, this person will not judge me for all of these things. And as we are talking about the work-life balance, I think with, in the research, um, work-life balance is a very personal thing.
Yeah.
I personally don't think that research is a 10 to 5 job, but at the same time, where to draw the line, that is, if, I mean, as I said, every student is different, every one of us is different. So it is everyone's own personal thing that here I will draw my line, right? So, and so, for example, again, I can say when the students join the lab, at the very first meeting, I tell them that our lab is 24 by 7, meaning is that you have to work anytime and every time. But that also does not mean that you will actually work all 7 days in the lab. It means that you will take off depending on your need, your family structure, etc. That need not to be Saturday, Sunday. That can be Tuesday and Thursday also. I don't care. Uh, that if you need to, for say, we have one microscope that needs to be booked by multiple people. If you need to come in the, and all the students, they stay in the nearby, in the hostel, in the campus itself, that's a plus point. So if you need to come at the late evening, you may need to come to the lab. But at the same time, I will not ask you a question that why you are not in the lab in the daytime. So you have to manage your own time depending on whatever your personal choice, your health, everything allows you. Uh, being said that, being said that, uh, also I tell the students that it is also important that you have sufficient overlapping time with the other lab members, so that you can exchange, you can discuss. It cannot be that you will only come at 10 o'clock in the midnight and go at 6 a.m., right? 6 a.m. in the morning. There should be some kind of overlapping time.
Certainly, certainly. Samatha, we have some audience questions that we can get to. Starting
Okay.
with the
I
one
guess
I've
the overlap question, Karishma, you have just asked.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you said you do have some guidelines, right? Because some people work really well when they're alone in the lab, but then they still have their roles to play with admin,
Some kind of
finance.
overlapping is required. So I tell them that how much overlapping is needed, etc. That I'm not asking you that everyone to be there in the lab in the 10 to 5, but it also should not happen that you have not met your lab member for last 6 months. That also should not happen.
Exactly. Or you forget that there is a lab member because he was, or she, they work 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Exactly.
Okay, that would be quite the lab life. But sometimes we'll start with the question on practical organizational structures. Do you see that, Samatha, the question?
I see that.
Sure.
So, can you share some practical organizational structures you have regarding how often you meet with your students in postdoc lab meetings and what things are discussed in these?
Okay, I think that's a very very pointed question. So for to meeting with the student, I try to meet them every week individually, one-on-one session, at least for 1 hour. Okay, now that is typically for the new PhD students, that I will meet them every week for 1 hour at least minimum, and that time is fixed, that is in our calendar, and we do all of those things. But then as they kind of go to their third to fourth, fifth year then I kind of go from the every week to every alternate week. And for the postdocs, I tell them that we have this weekly meeting time that I'm keeping separated for you, but it is whether you want to meet me on that time or not, that you need to tell me. Now for this weekly meeting, one-on-one meeting, I have some kind of guidelines. That is whether I will meet you every week or every alternate week, irrespective of that. If say I have a meeting with you on Tuesday, you need to send me by Monday 6 p.m. a stack of PPTs. And that PPT need not to be anything aesthetically beautiful, nothing. It just should have some of your raw data, the question that you are addressing, the question you are going to address in the next week, or some bottleneck you are facing, etc. You just put those things there and you send it to me by 6 p.m. of the previous evening, because so that I have enough time to study them, so that our one-to-one meeting are meaningful. That is the one thing. I also told them that there will be a Google weekly meeting, Google thread. You have to send every week in that thread itself, so that after 5 years of your PhD, all our discussions are there in one thread, so that everything is documented and everything is at one place. You can go back there. Third
This is a
thing.
great point, Abhijit. This is a great point.
So,
Okay.
because after 6 months, after an year, if there is a mismatch of expectation, we can go back and we can kind of revisit that what, or also in the real research, all of we start with something, then we go kind of divert into some other direction. So it is good to go back and check, no, that was actually our question, we need to go back there, right? So that is one thing that we maintain. And then we have weekly lab meeting. In the weekly lab meeting, 1 or 2 students present, and that presentation kind of my involvement is more or less minimal, because it is mainly the other lab colleagues who kind of grill them, question them, give them the ideas. And our lab meetings may go for like 4-5 hours also at a stretch. It can, obviously with some tea break, etc. But it is just because everyone is discussing and the discussion is going on and on and on. And it is generally also like, it happens with a lot of, laughter and fun and kind of leg pulling, so that it is not very stressful as well in that way.
That's
And
interesting, Abhijit. I guess how you conduct lab meetings sometimes also individual, right? It's your
Yeah.
style.
yes.
Yeah, it's your style. So, yeah,
Can I ask
it's
one
interesting.
question?
Is that you,
Uh,
Samatha?
yeah.
Oh,
So,
Samatha, you're asking the questions. You're supposed to be asking the
no,
questions.
no. This is from my end. Are there people who criticize your mentorship style? This, Abhijit?
in criticizing.
Criticize your mentorship style.
So that is what Samatha, I said at the very beginning is that
Mm-hmm.
it will be the worst possible situation is that I think that I believe I am doing things right and my students think the things the other way. That will be the so. Uh, what I have not done that actually for some time for last 3-4 years, but at least at the initial phase, what I also used to do is some kind of anonymous feedback from their side. Okay, some kind of paper or the Google Doc etc. where they can give their feedback to me without revealing who is giving the feedback.
That's
So
really nice.
that is something that I used to do. But I mean, again, I'm saying I might be wrong, but I think that uh, they are not very unhappy because when they need something for me to change, they also come to me and tell me that let's do it in this way and not that way,
Right.
and we discuss and we change things. Even for example, I can tell you that in terms of the broader lab management, that how the cell should be stored, how the TC room should be managed, how the microscopy room should be managed. It is the how things should be, that the protocol that is made, I mean everything is made by the students, obviously with my involvement. But I mean, so I tell them, see, this document you guys have made, so now it is your responsibility to follow the do's and don'ts. So I think we discuss it, uh, and yeah, I think it is going well. I don't know.
But at least, I mean, one thing Samatha Abhijit says, he's very open to making it reflexive. That
Right.
with different people, with feedback, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
changed across 10 years. I think that itself is a great takeaway.
Yeah. So
We have
Something
Chandana.
another
also I
question
would
from
try to
Raghu.
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So something also I would try to do is that, uh, but to be very honest, nowadays I'm not being able to do it that much, but
Mm-hmm.
that at least in the initial years, that to spend time with each new student, say much longer duration, then as they kind of become more and more senior, I kind of take myself off, right? So, say particularly when they are going to start their project, that time, and I said that 1 hour interaction weekly, that is fixed. But when they're going to start their project, that interaction might be much longer. That we are sitting more often and we are discussing more and we are trying to say that, okay, what can be done, what cannot be done. We are brainstorming ideas, and yeah.
Yeah. So the question from Raghu is, when students have internal, or we sort of call this internal lab politics, and then they don't really communicate well with you what is happening within them. What should a PI be doing in that kind of a situation?
Yeah, I think that is another very good question, and that's also a very tricky point, right? So, yeah, uh, one thing is that at least I can tell you what I kind of try to do. So, uh, first of all, I try to get a sense of what is going on. Okay, just being around. I mean, in the many of the times I can get a sense, okay, this is not going right, or that is not going right. Okay. Then if it is a kind of a small issue and something, I initially start not to get involved in it, but kind of if that can get resolved, etc. But otherwise, sometimes it is multiple different ways to deal with it. It is very situational. You may want to say two people are not getting along or they are having some right. You can talk to two of them individually and then try to see that where is the problem and kind of tell them that, okay, this is not how it should be, etc. Also, in some situation, it may help that call both of them kind of together and have a discussion and get it resolved. Some of the situation, it is also helps that you ask some other lab member whom do you think more matured and have a good equation with them, and kind of take help of that person and sit together and have a open discussion. But again, I mean, I think the basic baseline is that the communication is the key. That we need to have discussion with every situation, even if it is uncomfortable.
Yeah. So another question is, how do you identify if a student is in stress or having a problem, whatever it may be within lab or outside, and how do you classify them? And if they are not a person who would like to come and talk to you, so I think already you've touched upon this, but if you, how do you say that a person is not working up to their mark? How do you identify that?
I guess that is easy, that is not difficult, because once the person joins you, right, for first couple of the months, you kind of observe that how this person is, what is this person's strength, what is this person's weakness, what is the working style, etc., etc. Then if you keep a close watch, I don't mean breathing, standing next to that person, but kind of a overall watch. And this every weekly meeting is a good indicator of that. And if you see that the person's either performance or motivation, or even sometimes it is very evident from their appearance that the way the person used to maintain themselves, that has changed, right? So from these various different sign, you can figure out that something is not right. Now, when I can feel that something is not right, I don't intervene that moment. I just wait, because drop in motivation, drop in performance, etc. is absolutely fine. If it drops for a few weeks or something, it is fine. Again, it picks up. That happens with all of us. But if I see that it's a gradually trend, the downward trend, or it is going too long, more than a couple of weeks, then I try to give a kind of a hint to that person. Is there anything wrong, or are not you feeling well? Is there anything that you need help? What is happening? Um, I feel you are not exactly in the way you were. Is there? So then after the couple of such kind of thing, generally they always talk about it. And as I say that, I mean, I at least believe that probably they are comfortable with me, so I don't really need to put much effort into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I think Chandana's question goes perfectly well. How do you protect your own unicorn time in between all this for writing your paper and doing your research?
Yeah, so that is what I was also telling that, I mean, the way I could do it earlier, now as I'm getting more senior, getting into more committees, etc., etc. So now it is really becoming difficult that I feel that I'm not being able to spend that much of time with my first year students that way I used to do earlier, right?
No, but as a young PI, how do
No,
you
no.
think?
So I know. So I was coming to that point. So as an young I think one of the thing that you need to, I mean, all the young PIs, they should realize is that they are going to get busier with years. It is never going to kind of come down. Okay. So you need to also put some boundary for yourself, as I was saying, is that I say, for example, I don't carry my laptop home. If I need to stay a bit longer in the lab, in the office, it's fine. But I will not carry my laptop home or my copy checking home. My home is my own time. Okay. Then Another thing is, I think, very important is to kind of plan and make your kind of calendar that which thing you will be doing where. And once you start doing it, soon you will realize that, okay, this is the max that I can handle. And I will stop there. So again, I don't know whether that is a good suggestion or not. How much one should push yourself, I don't know. But what I can tell for what I did was that, okay, this much is this much, utna mein jitna hoga hoga, and that is what I will achieve or not or whatever. But this is my own boundary. So yeah.
Right. So another question from Nasira is, how do you align the lab theme to what a student wants individually? Do you ask them what their interests are in the beginning and build a project aligning both the lab and the student's interest?
Yes, absolutely. So not just even for the students, even for the interns when they join the lab. First 1 week, I don't give them, they ask me that, what is my project? I said, no. First 1 week, you will just meet the people, you will see what all the projects are going on in the lab. After that, you will come to me and you will tell me which project you would like to join. When I take the PhD students, it is not absolutely always that, because I also have the running project and grants where I need to show the, I need to give my deliverables. So it is somewhere in the midway. That is majority of the cases the student define kind of their project, what exactly they want to do, but then the fine tuning and how to kind of match that with the broader goal, that is what I kind of do.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Next question is from Akshata, and she asks, how do you manage paper writing? Do you go with the mentee's flow or change a lot in context of writing style?
change a lot in context, or that is again very that depends on the situation to situation, right? So the paper writing, something that uh, I would like to follow, and this I kind of learned from my PhD guide, right? That no, so the okay, before what I have learned from a PhD guide, first I need to tell something different. So what I try to follow is that when a student starts a project and got their initial kind of preliminary result, which gives an indication that okay, our hypothesis is correct and we are getting somewhere. Then I sit with the student, we discuss about what should be the storyline of our paper, and then I ask the student to make the figures. So figures meaning we still have not got the result. Nothing is there. But they will just make a hand-drawn images that with this hypothesis, with this initial result, how the structure will be. And that we discuss a lot of the time, and no, this should be like this data should be presented like this way. So then they have a fair enough idea. Then when they get the result, they put the results, they kind of write about the results and come to me. Again, we discuss about the storyline, because again, most of the time as the research progresses, storylines gets evolved and evolved. And then when they give me the paper draft, etc., I don't really need to change the story too much, because storyline has already been discussed and we are all on the same page. What I generally need to do is that, obviously, I mean, writing style needs to be improved in for, but again, I must say not for all my students. I was lucky enough that to get the draft which are very good. But in some of the cases, you need to rewrite the things, you need to put things together, put your perspective there, etc. But as I said, because the storyline is already mutually decided and agreed upon, so I don't really need to change the structure too much.
Yeah, thank you. So another question is from Karishma. She's asked, if you see that the student needs professional help, I am assuming this case for mental health, does your lab or institute have such amenities or resources?
Can you please repeat the question?
No, that was
So
not by me, Samatha. It was by
oh, I'm
Arushi.
sorry. Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It okay. So, how do you handle situations where a
Huh.
student needs professional help? Does
Hmm.
your lab or institute have such amenities or resources?
Yes, so institute has the student counseling service, student wellness center. Our campus hospital has their own psychiatrist, psychologist. So those structures are all there. How good or bad they are, those things are debatable. Some students say it is good, some students are not satisfied, and all those things are there. But yes, the structure is there. Um, and so when the student needs the professional help or intervention, so as I was telling that uh, if I think that something is lingering too much or it is a downward spiral, then I ask them that you need to go for some kind of help and something. Um, so far, I have faced two such situations, and they went to the to take the professional help. One was satisfied with our system, and she did well. Another person was not satisfied with our system. They have gone take the help from outside, and institute reimbursed that
Very nice.
counselor fee, etc.
Yeah, so I wanted to personally ask you questions about your DEI activity. Like,
Hmm.
you are very vocal about when you're from a marginalized community, and that has helped a lot of students. So how does that reflect in mentorship? If you have a student from a marginalized background in your lab, do you do something differently, or what should be what should others also be doing? I'm not sure if the lab has someone like that.
See, I don't think I do anything differently, right?
Yeah.
Uh, the thing is that if, as I was answering, I think Karishma's question or your question, is it is the if you go by, it is the core of all of DI or whatever we talk about. The core is there is that the mutual respect, right? That you need to respect that person now, and that is across the board, right? There is no anything specific. Now I can talk about, say, for example, LGBTQIA plus queer issues, right?
Right.
Many of the people, they may face the difficulty that they even don't know the language and the jargons and how to have that conversation, right? uh, People may not know even what type of conversation is disrespectful.
Yeah.
So in that kind of situation, obviously, right, some institutional training and system helps, but at the same time, I think it is also our responsibility to
Mhm.
try to learn more about others, right? I mean, if I mean, I think it's just that if you by core, if you value people
Mhm.
over other things, you will do that automatically. There is no, I mean, I think the core thing is that whether you value people or not. I think that is
Right.
the core
Yeah.
essence.
Correct. Put very well. So, but the catch in all this is that when we are recruiting people,
Hmm.
we never talk about mentorship. I know some places might ask for teaching proposals, but mentorship wise, how many places demand that the PI already has a vision of how they'll handle their lab? And um, so, what do you think about that?
I am not aware of if there is any which may look into it. I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
So do
So,
you think, Abhijit and Samatha, that's a great point, Samatha. Do you think future recruitment should have a mentorship statement also to see if it aligns with the culture of the organization? Because, you know, there could be two things. Somebody could come with radically different mentorship ideas that may not align with an organization. Just a simple thing, right? There are university systems which will say biometric is compulsory. So 9:30 to 6:30, the PhD researcher has to be in the department. You cannot give them the flexibility to come at 2 p.m. and leave at 10 p.m. So if your mentorship style is going to be very flexible, is it even going to work? That's also another aspect.
Exactly. Yes. So yes, so I think that taking a mentorship statement at the beginning and when we are recruiting to kind of think that whether that person will align with this existing system or not, that is obviously one good thing. But then also, Karishma, the flip side of that is that then the existing system will remain as it is. It will not go through any radical changes, right? So the thing is that, I mean, there will be conflicts, but
Yes.
I mean,
Sort of, I get your point. If a situation arises where somebody absolutely needs to work outside of working hours or needs a special, whatever it may be, you know, caregiving or whatever, then you could put it up to the institute and therefore bring about change.
yes.
That's what you're trying to say.
Exactly. That if I always pick the people who are already aligned with my thought process, then my thought process will never evolve. So I also need the challenge, right? So
Can I just interrupt? So when I say that, what I mean is, when we are recruiting, we are only focusing on our publications and impact factors. So most people, when they start dreaming of becoming a PI, they're not keeping in mind the mentoring aspect of it. So that's what I was trying to ask. Do you think that every candidate who wants to become a PI has already thought about how they're going to mentor the students, or is it just because they think, okay, I have this first author publication in some journal, so I am definitely going to become a PI? So that is what I was trying to say.
So Samatha, I mean, I think that anyone who is going to become a PI or applying for such positions, they must have some kind of dream and picture in their mind that how they want to run their lab. They may not have every details there, obviously, because they also don't have the information. But some vision, I think everyone has in their mind.
Correct. Thank you. So, can we ask a concluding question, Karishma, or are there more?
Sure. If we get any more from the audience or from the attendees, we will take them sometime, but we can slowly start wrapping up. Sure.
Yeah. So there's one more question from Anupama. From a PI's perspective, what are your expectations from a postdoc?
Okay, so Anupama, as a postdoc, I want that person to be independent. Okay, I expect that the postdoc, say I can just give the current example, right? Say for example, Arpita is working in the lab. She came from a very different background, right? She came with her expertise in RNA biology. My lab works in the area of mechanobiology and the biomaterial. Now, if Arpita becomes adamant that I will only work in that area, then obviously it will not work that way. So what she did is that she started reading about the mechanobiology, and then we discussed, and then we have found where her expertise in RNA biology can be used in our understanding of mechanobiology, so that the lab will get also benefited, getting a fresh perspective, and Arpita will also get benefited because now she is creating her own niche that is different from her PhD mentor as well as the postdoc mentor, because she is kind of bringing two things together to make something even more interesting and more meaningful. So I expect the postdoc should have that kind of creativity, independence, that they will be able to think of the newer questions, and they will be able to bring something new to the table, which will be beneficial for both the parties.
last point. If you were to distill everything into 3 points for a young investigator as a mentor, what would you say?
Okay. I think I will first say that I have told multiple times in this talk, in this discussion, is that communication. Okay, you need to have a open communication with your team, your colleagues, your 360-degree communication. Second point I would like to say is respect, and that is very important because and again, I mean, not just respect that your student or your group, but also respect around, right? I mean, say when the vendors are coming, or even the cleaning stuff, right? I mean, you have to be respectful with everyone. And I mean, one part is that is just we should do it without, I mean, that should be the way of life. But even from the practical point of view, that goes a long way. That your relationships with 360-degree goes a long way. So that is my second tip. And my third tip would be, again, I mentioned that, is that you have to also love yourself. Okay, if you are stressed out, if you are burnt out, you will not be able to give the best. And so, I mean, when you are dealing with your lab, or anything for that matter, you are going to class for teaching or everything, this is kind of a relationship, right? If you yourself is stressed out and burnt out, you will not be able to give the best to your partner. So exactly the same way. So you have to keep yourself kind of also uh, happy in the whole process.
Sounds very good. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you, Samatha. Samatha, shall we slowly start wrapping up?
Yes,
And
yes.
lots of
Thank you.
very well fleshed out questions, right, Samatha? Sorry, I interrupted you, but please go ahead. Yeah.
No, no. So I think most of the questions were suggested from the IVF team. But yeah, this is a great discussion. Thank you so much, Abhijit. Thank you so much, everyone at IVF, for the opportunity. Now I hand it over to you.
Yeah,
The
thank you,
Thank you,
Samatha,
Samatha.
and thank
Thank
you.
you, Abhijit. And our audience also had some really pertinent questions. It was a nice closed group discussion, Abhijit. And thank you for your honesty. You started with saying it's overwhelming. And you also said that, it's a constantly changing process, changing dynamic. It's very good to hear. All right. So what all our attendees can do is give us feedback. That would be great. It will inform us about other sessions you're looking forward to. What were your takeaways from this session? I am very inspired, Abhijit, to think of some like kind of a mentorship training workshop for Indian young PIs, or a lab leadership workshop for Indian context, like what EMBO does in the European context.
Yeah.
But all right,
In
we'll
fact,
see.
Deputy Welcome Trust, they do it for their PIs.
Yes, okay, for their awardees, for their
Uh,
grants awardees. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, we can get
yeah.
in touch with them to see how that will work. Um, we also have some very good insights about this from our YI survey, which we will be publishing shortly, about this lacunae in mentorship training for Indian young PIs. So hopefully we will be able to do something about this. All right, and our next session, thank you, Arushi, for sharing the slide, is end November. So after the holiday break, we will be hosting Vishal from CCAMP as the interlocutor. And Vishal is a well-recognized face at CCAMP, and he's interfaced with several startups in the Bangalore community. And he will be chatting with Dr. Premnath from NCL Innovation Park. And the real focus of this discussion is going to be that while we have these big innovation parks, knowledge clusters, biotech clusters, there are so many facilities that that academia can use. For example, large microscopes, HPLC facilities, 3D printing, protoshops, tinkering labs. So how can academic labs leverage these common facilities? Often they are at a fee, but there would be an option if you don't have it at your own institute. And so that's what they're going to talk about. How can young PIs build a lab beyond the lab and leverage common research infrastructure that is expensive and set up by the government and available to use? So how can academia use that? hope to see you in a month. Do remember to give us your feedback on today's session. We will have the YouTube link posted on our website for you. Correct, Arushi? It will be there under discussion. That's great. And thank you all for joining. Have a good 3-day, 4-day, 2-day weekend, whatever it is at your end. Have a good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Samatha. Thank you, Abhijit. We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Can I leave?
Yes, Samatha. Yes, yes. Thank you, Samatha, for a good evening.
Same to you.
Okay. Thank you, Arushi. Great session. Well done.
I have to stop live recording.
Okay, Arushi, please do some editing now.
Yeah.
All right. Well done, Arushi. Nice session.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would have expected the turnout to be a little more. Arushi, live abhi bhi hai.
Yes, live.
Yeah, I'm trying that only. I don't know.
Can I do something about it from my end? Let me see. Let me see. Vijita, can you just go to YouTube and see if we can switch it off? I'm also trying to log in.
Yeah.